In this video, I'm giving you a complete walkthrough of Toggl Track, from setting up your account and workspace to exploring every feature you need to start tracking time effectively. Whether you're a freelancer, student, or part of the team, this covers everything: time tracking, projects, tasks, reports, approvals, billable rates, and many more. I'll also break down the pricing plan so you know exactly what each tier offers. And stick around for a bonus tip at the end that will help you get even more out of Toggl Track. Alright, so now you want to get started by going here into the website of Toggl Track by using the link in the description. Once you're here, you can now click here on allow all cookies so that it would work perfectly. And from here, let's start by setting up our account. So you could click here on login, or you could click on try for free if you don't have an account yet. I'm going to click here on try for free. And now from here is that you can now sign up by providing your email address and click on sign up for free, and then a code will be sent. And basically you would have to type out that code and set up your password, or you could just go with your Google or Apple account for a simpler registration process. I'm just going to go with my Google account. And now, once you are signed in for the first time, is that you will now be prompted here into the introductory questions. You just have to answer of this. All of these are just personal questions, so just answer according to your own case right here. And now, once you are finished with that, is that you will now be greeted with a generous offer, which is a 30-day free trial from Toggl Track, which is one of the features or perks right here in Toggl Track that I really appreciate. So they are very generous for this. We get a whole month to access all of the premium features right here. So I'm going to click here on get tracking, and now we can proceed into using Toggl Track. And right away, you want to go here into the workspace. So you want to click on that and make sure that your workspace is correctly set up, because this is basically the base for everything for this specific work. So in here, you can find workspaces. You can see the organization right here. So it's my organization by default and my workspace right here. You could always create a new organization if you'd want, or you could click here on manage workspaces. And then basically you would now be able to see the members here, the logo, the name, and so on right here. And next, you want to make sure that you go here into members to add the member that needs to be added here into your team or your workspace. So just simply click here on invite members and then add their email right here, and then their role or access on this workspace. You could set that right here and click on invite. And after that, they would receive an email. They just need to open the link there and log in into their Toggl account, and they will now be a member of your workspace. And then you should now be able to see them right here with their access rights and then their rate and other things. So yeah, that's it. And now we can finally proceed into using Toggl. So now in here is that the first thing that I suggest that you do is to go here into projects and clients. So you want to import everything right here first so that when you track later on, it will be much easier. So that is just a preference that I do in order for me to have an organized workflow in tracking my time here in Toggl Track. But yeah, you can just do your own. You could also just do it all here in the timer section under track. You could also create your projects and clients in here, but in my opinion, that would be less organized and might confuse you more. So for now, I'm just gonna go into projects first before I go and track my time here in timer and create the project that I have. So let's say video tutorials, for example. And then next, you can set the privacy. You can make it private, which is only visible to project members that you assign, or you could make it public, which is visible to anyone in the workspace. So in my case, I would want this to be private right here. And then I can also invite the members in here. You can select team member or group right here. So you can see all the active team members. You can select them right here. And then you can go for the access. So you can go for the regular member or the project manager, which is basically they have all the permissions. And then next, you could go for the advanced options. So in here, you can now assign on which client is this project for. So I'm going to click here to select my client, but I don't have any clients yet on this account. So I'm going to have to add one first. So I'm going to go here into client one. So this would be my client name and click on add, and it will now be added. And it will also be added here in the client section right here, just below the projects that we're currently in. So we're going to view that later on. You could also add them right here if you'd want. And next is the time frame. So if you have any specific deadlines or starting dates in mind, this is where you can set that for this specific project. You can make this recurring if you are doing this monthly, weekly, bi-weekly, quarterly, or yearly, depending on what it is. In my case, this is not recurring, so I'm going to turn that off. And then the time estimate. So how long do you think this project will take? So you could go for the estimation rate here, and then the calculated task-based estimate, and so on. So this is optional only if it applies to your project. And then you could also make this billable right here. So using workspace rates, I'm going to show you later on how you'd be able to set this up. So we have this one. You can go for the hourly rate, so default hourly rates or custom project hourly rates, which you would be able to set it right here for the certain projects, so that whenever your team member is working on this, they would be able to use this hourly rate that you have chosen or set. In my case, I'll just go for default hourly rates. And when you hover here on the I button, you would now be able to see the workspace rate. So you can set this up right here, and then the member rates and so on. But we'll be doing that later on after we have created the projects and the clients. And next we have the custom project hourly rate. So you can put in your custom hourly rate just for this project. And next is that we have the fixed fee. So as for this one, you can now set a fixed fee for completing this project, or the price of this project, or the expenses and so on. You can put that right here. You can enable both if you have someone who is working on this on an hourly rate and someone who is working on a fixed fee or fixed pay for project. So yeah, I'm just going to set this to 100, and this one default hourly rates, and click on create project. And now we have it right here. So basically from here is that you can now go click on that again, and then you'd now be able to see more details about it right here, some data, but we haven't added any time trackers right here yet, so we don't have data for it now. So now let's just customize it. We're going to click here on three dots and click on edit project and go back in here. And now we're going to go for the default hourly rates right here and click on here and click on go to set up. And basically from here, we'll now be prompted into the settings by clicking here on settings on the bottom left. And in here, you'd now be able to see the project and billing defaults. And then you can now set your hourly rate right here. So this is the default one. So you could set this into, let's say, 15 right here. And your rate will be effective for all data. You could choose that right here, or maybe from yesterday, from today, and so on right here. And now you can click here on change rate for all data. So now we are now set at 15 USD. You can also change the currency if needed. So now let's go back into projects. And now I'm just going to do one more right here. So this will be the thumbnails right here. And then, by the way, you could also change the color in here if you want. It would also affect the color of the project here in the timer later on. So this one, it's still private, and I'm just going to leave that be. And this one right here, I'm going to go for client 2 right there. And then the time frame, recurring, time estimates, billable, depending on what you'd want. So I'm just going to go for that right here again. Click on create project, and there it is. Next is the client. So basically we have now created 2 clients so far, and we would now be able to see on which project they are assigned to. And then you could also click here on new client if needed. You could create a new client right here, and then you could add them to the projects that you have made. So yeah, that is basically it for the client side right here. It's very simple. Now that we have our projects and client set up, I will now want to go here into timer and start tracking right here and show you how you would be able to do that right here in the time tracker. So first of all is that you have this view right here. So you want to make sure that you get this right first. So you can go view the time tracking in just today. in yesterday, this week, or last week, depending on your preference. And then you could also go here into the week view, 5 days view, day view, depending on what you'd want. So yeah, I'm gonna go for week. And then you could go for a list view if you would want. But in here, we don't have any data yet, so we'll be able to view this more effectively later on. And then you have the timesheet right here. So for now, let's go into calendar and add some data. So in here, you want to hover your cursor right here, and you'd be able to click on the time slots right here. So I'm in this week, and this is September 8th right here on Monday. And then from here, I can now go and click on the spaces right here. Let's say I worked on this time, 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. right here. And I'm going to add a description on what I worked on this time. Let's say that I did researching titles, maybe something like that. And next is that you want to click here on the folder. This is the project icon. So this is where you can select the project on where this work belongs, or what is this work doing for. So this belongs on video tutorials. And then you can also click here on the tags. So this is basically for organizational purposes. So so that you'd be able to organize your task right here, or what you're working on later on if needed. So you can add your tags if you have one right here. And the next is that you can modify the time in here. You can be more specific, like let's say 6 a.m. to 6:30 a.m. So that would be 30 minutes right here. And yeah, that's basically it. You now have the project, the client, and then the time setup. And then you could also set up the tags right here if needed. And the recipients right here can only be attached to logged time entries. So we'll be adding it later on. Click here and add. And now we have it right here. So you would now be able to see that. And you could also drag this down if you would want to increase the duration. So this is only 30 minutes. So let's say we only expected 30 minutes, but on reality, we exceeded this. Let's say we worked 45 minutes. So we can just go hover our cursor here and drag this down. As you can see, you can make it longer, and that would also make the time longer. As you can see, this has now been added 15 minutes. So it's now 45 right here, 45 minutes. So basically, the size of the bars, or what you may call this right here, is the representation of how long this has been worked on. Next is that you want to notice when you hover your cursor here, you have the play button right here at the bottom right of that bar. You want to click on that, and it will now start tracking your time in real time. From here, you'd now be able to see what project you're what task you're working on, what project it is, and then what client it is. In here, you could also set up a tag, your receipts if needed. So that would open up your storage. And then you could also mark as billable, and then you'd be able to see the time. You'd be able to stop or start the entry. And then you would now be able to see the focus mode and some other options right here, like pin as favorite and so on right here. So yeah, basically when I stop this, it will now be recorded and added to the total time right here. And it's not really added right here because it's so small. It's only 30 seconds. But when I go here into list view, I'd now be able to see that right here that it's added. So I did that for a total of 5 times. I just haven't recorded the 4 because I just tested it. But basically it's recorded right here, a total of 5 times. And the total accumulation of those 5 times just for today is a total of 1 minute and 17 seconds. And basically this would also be added to the total time in this task right here, and the project and the client. So yeah, that is basically it right here. And then you could also click here on the play buttons right here, and then you'd now be able to track it again. Just as simple as that. As you can see, it's added right here. And yeah, let's now go back here into calendar. And now another useful feature in here is that you could duplicate this task. So for example, I'm going to click here, and then I would have this pop up, and then I just simply want to click here on the duplicate time entry button. and it will now be duplicated just like so. So this is useful if you have worked at this time of the day, and let's say again at 11 a.m. you started working on it again. So now you would need to create another one of this, right? So instead of doing it again from scratch, you can just duplicate this, and then you'd now be able to easily make this same exact task with all the details right here. So it is much more efficient than starting from scratch, just so that you could record it when you worked on this time. And same thing, you could also expand this as needed, and the time would also automatically adjust right here. And then you have this three dots wherein you could split this, pin as favorite, go to project, copy description, delete if it's a mistake, and so on right here. Let's go for split. And as you can see, you would now be able to split this right here. So let's say I'm going to go for that one. And as you can see, it is now split right here. And then you could also drag the split right here, just like that. And you could also put this on the other dates if you would want to. So yeah, that is basically it on how you'd be able to do this here on the timer, on how you'd be able to track your time and your work. And basically, I'm just going to create more data right here so that we have more data to work on. All right, so now I have created more data, and this time we will now be going into list view. And from here, you'd now be able to see everything right here in list view. Basically the same thing here in calendar, but you're just viewing it in a different view. So this is just based on preference on which one is easier for you to understand your work right here on what has happened so far on your timeline. And then we have the timesheet. And now, as you can see, you can still see your time in here. So I have worked a total of 1 hour and 30 minutes here on Monday, and on Tuesday is I worked on thumbnails for 2 hours and 15 minutes. So we could go back in here into calendar, and basically we would now be able to see that right here. So as you can see right here, 45 plus 45, so that would be a total of 90 minutes. So yeah, basically 1 hour and 30 minutes, and this one right here is 1 hour and 45, and this one is 30 minutes, so that would be 2 hours and 15 minutes. So it's exactly the same right here, as you can see. So that's how you use the timesheet right here, or how you'd be able to understand it. You could always click here on add row, and then you could now select a project for that certain row to be added. Let's say video tutorials. And as you can see, it's the same thing. You can't add another one if you don't have another project that is currently not in here. And in here, we have the goals and favorites. So you could add goals right here. So let's say by this time, complete 2 projects. So let's say this is our goal, and then you could now select an icon, and you can choose the members, and you could go for track. So you can start writing to find projects and so on. So select project, and this too right here. I'm gonna select more projects right here, select project, just like that. And for at least 3 hours every day until, let's say, until 23. So I will be doing this 3 hours every day until 23, so that I would be able to complete the goal, which is complete 2 projects. Click on create goal, and now you'd be able to do it right here. So this is very helpful when you are trying to achieve something here on your team. So yeah, you can keep track of your goals right here, like for this week, for this month, or whatever it is. And then you have your favorites right here, so you could add your projects as favorites. So let's say I'm gonna go click here and click on pin as favorite. As you can see, it's now added here as favorite right there. So yeah, that is basically it for the timer section right here. All that's left is that you could also do this manually. Like for example, here you could create a new task right here, like for example a sample task, and then you could record it in real time right away right here. And it's currently recording, as you can see right here, but it's only 5 seconds, so it's really small, but it's there. When I click on that, you'd now be able to see that I have it right here. And now let's go here into the analyze section. So we have our reports right here. So in here, this is where we'd be able to see all the specific details or analysis of all the time that was tracked right here on our time tracker. And basically, you can see the graphs and other details right here. And we have different kinds of reports. So we have the summary, which shows the total hours grouped by project, client, or user, which is great for quick overviews. And then we have detailed. So this lists every time entry with full breakdown, which is ideal for audits and billing. And we have the workload report, which displays how team members' time is distributed, which helps in resource planning. And then we have profitability. So in here is that this compares labor cost versus revenue, shows which projects or clients are most profitable. And in my reports, this lets you build a custom report with filter and layouts tailored to your own specific taste. So this is where you can build one, you can preview custom reports or create your own from scratch. And yeah, now let's go back in here into summary, and basically you'll be able to see this right here. So you could also enable report rounding so that you could round all charts in the report by the same rule. And you could also create invoice very easily right here and direct. You could provide all the details in here. And yeah, this is where you can make your invoice, and then you could now save that, and then you will now be able to send it. It's that easy. And then you could also export your data in here by PDF, CSV, or Excel sheets. And then you have the settings right here. You can hide weekends if you don't work on weekends. You can group similar entries, combine projects, show groups, show rates right here, which is what I like, so that I could also keep track of the rates and the cost. And then we have the save and share. So you could also save this view or a report if you'd want right here to generate the same report again and share them with people even without a track account. And next is that we have the approvals. So in here, we have team timesheets. This one is only for managers, as this is where they would be approving or declining the reports that was submitted by the members for their time being tracked. Like they submitted their reports right here from the Your Timesheets. So if you're a member, this is where you can find your timesheets and where you'd be able to submit them into your managers or team leaders, and then your team leaders or managers would be able to view that here in team timesheets, and this is where they could view that request and approve it if it's all correct, or if there is something wrong, they could decline that, and then you'd now be able to see that. As for this one, I wouldn't be able to do this because I only have one member in here, and it is myself, so I don't have any other ones. But yeah, this is basically, you could set up the timesheet for members. Click here, and then you can now select the members right here. So it's only me. And then the approver is also me. And then the period right here. So yeah, you can select your members and the approver. And then starting from, let's say, right here. And then you could also remind members to submit their timesheets. So I would definitely check this. And then weekly at Friday, or depending on the time that you'd want, and click on setup timesheets. And now you would have it right here. And now let's go back in here into team timesheets. So now you can click here onto the setup. So you make sure that you also set this up. And then you can now click here on setup timesheets for member. So I would want to set it up for this member, for example, and so on. So yeah, that's basically how you would be able to use the approvals. Next, let's go into manage. So this one is simple. So here in the projects we have already discussed, this is where you can select your projects, and this is also where you can create your projects. And if you have a lot of projects, you can filter them by client, member, billable, project name, depending on how you'd want to view your projects right here. And next is the clients. So similar thing, you could also create your new clients from here, and then you could also search for clients right here, and then you have your filter, as you can see right here, archived, both, and so on, so that you can easily find your clients. And next is the members. So this is where you could invite your members. We have already discussed this earlier. So you can click here invite members to put in their email and they would get an invitation. And once they accept, you'd now be able to see them right here with their access rights, rate, cost, and many more. You could also change the billable rate per member right here by clicking on that. And then you could now click on custom hourly rate for this member if you would want to. Next is the billable rates right here in the left menu. So basically very similar here into members. You could also change the billable rates per member right here. You could see that. And not just the members in here, you could also change the workspace rates right here. So you can make it billable or non-billable for the workspace rate. And you have the project rate. You could also set specific rates for the billables here on projects. So yeah, basically this multiplies your logged hours by the rate to show how much you've earned or should bill, and would help you track revenue, labor cost, and profit margins across different clients or projects. So that is basically it. Nothing else here. It's simply just for changing the rates for your workspace, your members, project rate, and so on. Next is that we have the invoices. So this is where you'd be able to create your invoice from reports. So when you click here, you will now be prompted back into reports. And basically, you'll just be clicking here on create invoice again, which we have discussed already. Just provide everything right here. So I'm going to make one for this example, 001. You could also modify the date, due date, purchase order, payment terms, and then add your logo. This is basically the workspace logo right here. So if you already have set up your workspace logo, it should automatically be added in here. Now you could add bill to right here and pay to. So I'm just going to put in something random. And this one right here, let's say tutorial, videos, and payment terms would, let's say PayPal, or let's say cash right there, and set the currency, and then the description right here. So you can see the projects that you have made right here, and we have the without projects, the quantity, let's say 5, and then the amount is 30 right there. So the amount basically is the currency right here. So that would be 120 USD, 82.83 USD, and so on. You could also add some custom charge right here. So let's say overtime right there. You could add this right here and the amount or the price. You could also add tax right here if needed. And then you could also add a custom message or payment details. Let's say, hi, thank you for your hard work. Like that. And then once you're done, you can now click here on save. And here it is. We now have this invoice right here under invoices. So this is where you could see all of the invoices that you have created. And now you can click here on the 3 dots. You can download this, duplicate, and so on. So let's try downloading it. And now let's see on what it looks like. So now we have this invoice right here that we can now send. So this is the invoice that we have created from Toggl. So we have this one right here, very simple invoice, but everything that we need is already right here. And you can also connect this to QuickBooks if you'd want to sync your invoices to your QuickBooks account if needed. And then next is that we have the tags. So this is where the importance of putting tags right here on your task is. So you can put some tags in here. And this is where you'd be able to see those tasks that has tags on them. So let's put one, for example. Let's say sample tag right here. And I'm going to click here on create a tag from this one. And it's now assigned to simple tag. Same goes for this one right here. I'm going to save it first. And I'm going to also add this with a simple tag. And click on save. And now let's go back to tags. And then we should now be able to see the tags, the tag right here. We can click on that and then we could delete that and so on. So yeah, this is where you can see all the tags that is available on your workspace and where you can create one or maybe delete one if needed by clicking here on the 3 dots and clicking on delete. Next, we have the goals. So this is where we would be able to set our goals. So we have already discussed this earlier, but basically this is where you could see everything, every goal that you have here on this workspace and where you could easily add a new goal if you want. And we have the integration. So this is where you can integrate Toggl with other apps to supercharge your workflow with other features that might not be present in here. Or if you would want to sync your data in here into other apps, this is where you can click on Get Started, and then you can now set up into connecting that specific app or integrating it into Toggl. Just take note that each of this has different steps on how you'd be able to connect them depending on the platform of your choosing. Alright, so now that you know how you can use Toggl effectively with everything that we have discussed, let's now go here into pricing, as you would need one if you are going to use Toggl for real work. So from here, we have the annual or monthly billing right here. If you'd want to save as much as possible, go for annual, as you would be able to save 10% off the total price per year. And now we have the plans. So here in the free plan, this is already great if you are just an individual or freelancer who need basic time tracking. It includes tracking across devices, calendar integrations, and a simple productivity report. So this is enough already for some people, but if you think that you need some more features, like you could see that feature here in the starter, then you should definitely get one of these paid plans. So for the starter plan, this is for small teams or solo professionals who need project structure and billing. This adds billable rates, project or task management, time estimates, and team collaboration tools. And we have the premium one. So this is for growing teams that need deeper insights and control. Adds profitability tracking, fixed fee projects, scheduled reports, timesheet approvals, and advanced integrations like Jira and Salesforce. Lastly, we have Enterprise. So this is for large organizations with complex setups, which includes personalized onboarding, custom workflows, multiple workspaces, and volume discounts. So yeah, by now you should now be able to see on what kind of plan best suits you. But if that's not the case yet, then feel free to explore Toggl using the free plan and see if there are any features that you absolutely must have that is only available in one of these paid plans. So that's it. And now, bonus tip, I don't know why they didn't include it right here, but Toggl also has an extension, which is, I think, very handy, as you don't need to open a Toggl tab in here anymore. You don't need to go to the website. You can just use the extension. So let's install that. Click here on extension on the top right of your browser, manage extensions, Chrome Web Store, or it would depend on the store for extensions of the current browser that you're using. From here, go for Toggl. And we have Toggl Track. We can now add it into our browser, click on Add Extension, and then once it's added, we would want to pin it right here so that we would now be able to easily track our time. So here it is right here, pin Toggl Track Extension. I've pinned it, so I'm just going to pin that right here. Let's find it here. And then there it is, got it. And now I'm just gonna set it up, click here, open the extension, and here it is. So as you can see, when I close my Toggl Tracks right here, I would now be able to use it from here just as easily. You don't need to open the website. You can now track in real time right here. You could add a project, and basically you could easily track your time. And this is just a simple way of being able to track your time without opening the website itself. So I think this is pretty handy, especially if you are saving your device resources, as the tab might take on a lot, and this would really save it. So yeah, you could just track your time from here, and it's very easy. So that's it. Thank you for watching, and so yeah, this is it for this video. For the tutorial on Toggl Track, I have taught you the basics and everything you need to know on Toggl Track to start using it effectively, even as a complete beginner. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.